Hey guys, so some of you have been asking me some questions on Facebook about DMing Adventure.exe, and I thought now would be a good time to answer some of those questions. So we'll start with Michael Price. He says, herding cats is easier, discuss. Depends on the cats and depends on the players. That's about the discussion there. Scooter Emerson asks, how much background detail do you make for NPCs, knowing your crew may not even encounter them? That's a good question, Scooter. So thanks for asking it. And it depends on the NPC. So there's certain ones where if I'm very confident that the players are going to run into them, I will do more planning. And especially if it's a NPC that I feel is like very important to the storyline that I can kind of like make sure that they're going to run into kind of thing, then I'll do quite a bit of background detail on them. I have a couple NPCs that, for example, haven't been met yet, but they have like a couple pages of information written on them. Whereas I also have a document with just like sort of a stable of like just in case NPCs that I have. So I make like maybe half a dozen to a dozen NPCs that I can just like at any time, if it suits the situation, I'll pull them in and throw them into the mix. And sometimes, if the players really latch onto them and like them, then I can go back later and fill in a lot of those details. So, yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag with NPCs, but basically, I take kind of a shotgun approach. I do a small amount of planning for a large amount of NPCs, and then I flesh out the ones that stick later, with a few exceptions to that. Sarah Ellis Fox, who that name rings a bell to me for some reason. She asks, I have a question. What's your accuracy rating for guessing which NPCs the party will become obsessed with? Like when you're making them, do you have a pretty good idea of who will become a core character slash fan favorite, or is it just a total crapshoot? Well, Sarah, thanks for listening to the podcast. I'm sure you're a great fan. Um, yeah, I think I have a pretty good sense overall of which NPCs the party will become attached to. There's never usually a case where I think like, oh, they're gonna love this NPC, and then that doesn't happen. But sometimes you guys or the players end up loving NPCs that I don't expect them to a lot more, and then I can just kind of bring them in. But fortunately, it's never been too big of an issue. I think it's just sort of an organic thing where I'll put an NPC in, and hopefully people like them or whatever, or they hate them, or whatever's intended in that case. And it just kind of it grows organically as the show goes on. It's a lot like, not really improv. I just kind of throw a character in, and hopefully that it sticks. So for this edition, I'll answer one more question. Darshil Marco asks, who's your inspiration as a DM? That's another great question because I have a lot of DM inspirations, probably too many for me to list like all at once at least. But I'll list three for you guys because I don't want to just say one. There's too many great DMs out there. The first one is the original DM of the very first D&D podcast that I listened to, which was called Nerd Poker, and the DM's name was Sark. And if any of you have like listened to like the original Nerd Poker series, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's like an awesome DM, and he really influenced me because that's sort of what inspired me to get into D&D. Another big inspiration for me is Chris Perkins, who I'm sure almost all of you know already. He's the DM for Acquisitions Inc. and like a million other things, and a contributor at Wizards of the Coast. He's super awesome and hilarious, and his stories are like amazing. And my last inspiration for a DM is a good friend of mine named Tim Modishaw, who ran my friends and I through some like extremely memorable games that will be with me forever. And yeah, he was just like, he's always been a great DM. We've had him on the show. He's on the first season as a guest during the whole Master Nectar saga. So re-listen to those episodes if you want to know who I'm talking about. He's a great DM. He also has his own podcast called Loose Ends, and he streams on Twitch and all kinds of things. So yeah, look him up, the GM Tim. So yeah, I would say those three are my the first inspirations that come to my head when I read that question. So thanks for the questions, guys. I will be getting to more later, but I just wanted to get a few of those answered for now. So stay tuned for more answers coming soon.